Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we have a pretty intense game. It is the semi-final of the Danghu Shiju Cup. It's basically a tournament in China that is not international, and the champion would get about 40k US dollars. So it's a decent tournament, and we're the semi-final between Jiayang 9P and Wang Xinghao 9P. Both are very strong Chinese professionals. Jiayang is playing as black, and Wang Xinghao is playing as white in this game. And we have a very normal Joseki playing out on the right side. Then black transfers to the left side. White responds, and we see another AI Joseki coming out. And at this point, before white pushes, white decides to enclose the corner, exchanging with a very big move on the right side. Right? Black approaches and putting pressure on white's formation. White pushes on top, that's a sente, and white pushes again. I really like white's choice here. Right? So pushing here would suppress black's moyo, but expand white moyo. So it's a very important move. So instead of playing the Hani here, black was really worried about the cut over here, right? The fight is not going to go well because the stone is on 4th line. And therefore, black decides to Atari in the corner. Now, this is a sente. White cannot play elsewhere. If white takes the very big move over here, then because of the Atari here, black now has the strength to Hane. This puts white's 4 stones in a very awkward position, right? There's liberty issues, but also this cut is not going to work because black is very strong now, thanks to the move over here. Which means that in the actual game, white had to respawn, and therefore the best move is the Hane, double Hane. Black decides to Tanuki and invade white's moyo. White pincers, and black jumps. The pincer here is a really good direction because we see that white's top side is stronger, and therefore we want to reinforce our weaker side, which is our corner over here. Black jumps, and this jump not only runs out, but it's putting pressure on white as well. If white once again takes the very big move, then black is going to directly counterattack by dragging the stone out. And now we can see that white has a weak group over here, and these guys are also feeling very there's some security problems about them because black already has a move, and now black is playing an extra move to put pressure on white. So white doesn't want to get into this position, and therefore white played proper, not playing greedy, right? Playing very good solid moves, and black bumps into white. White blocks, black hanes, white extends, black crawls once again. White extends, black blocks, and now white jumps to prevent the Hane. Black keeps pushing, and now white simply connects, forming a very strong shape on the outside and also hurting the 2 stones. So black got a very big corner, a lot of territory, but white is able to build a very strong outside to attack the 2 stones. So of course black has to deal with these 2 stones, right? But running towards the center would seem very boring, and it's not generating any points, it's not putting pressure on white, and professionals usually don't love these moves, although this move is definitely okay. In the actual game, black is asking for more, right? He wants more efficiency. Of course, if white just responds, that's not a good idea because that's just pretty much following what black is doing. And usually professionals hate to follow what the opponent is doing, right? Because after this, we can see that black is expanding the territory, but these stones are also helping out the 2 black stones on top in an indirect way. So white really doesn't want to get into that position. That's too passive, and therefore white decides to counterattack. Black blocks, white jumps on top, black turns the shape move. White has to prevent black from getting out, and black Atari on the 2nd line. White jumps, black takes, and here white connects. Another choice is for white to squeeze here, which really hurts black's ice space, but also weakens white. So it's a double-edged sword, really. If white plays like this, black is going to attach into the corner and then play the double Hane. White Ataris, black connects, and the correct move is for white to Atari in the corner. Black extends, and here white cannot keep going anymore because black can Atari. If white takes, black will also capture the stone, and we can see that white's corner can't really live. So it's at this point, white has to stop and come back and play the tiger's mouth, and of course black will live with the Atari. The result of this is that white got a very strong shape towards the right side. However, the cost of this is that white's stones over here are quite weak, right? There's a big difference between the stone over here versus it was connected over here, right? With stone over here, black's Hane will weaken the two white stones and makes a big difference when it comes to fighting in the center. So white in the actual game wanted strength by connecting here, right? White is really focusing on attacking the two stones, which I think is a brilliant idea. Black attaches, white hanes, and here black simply extends. Because white didn't get rid of the ice space here, black can extend and live in a more comfortable way without exchanging moves and making white super strong. We can see that white's shape is not very strong anymore. Next up, we have white playing the pincer here. So this is a very patient move. A more intuitive move is for white to actually cap black in sight. The problem with this is black can play this jump. This jump is aiming at a counterattack, right? So if white keeps going, then black can play the Hane, and then there's some concerns over here. Maybe it doesn't work because the peep, but black can exchange moves on the outside, make himself strong, and then come back and block here. White is not connected, and these four stones might be in trouble. So white has to watch out for his own weakness by turning here, probably, and black now jumps out. We can see that black is really hard to catch. So that's why white knows that it's not so easy to attack two stones. Rather, it's very important to stay patient and just take more territory, right? If white is able to build this entire territory, then white doesn't have to go for a fierce attack. Next up, we have a very beautiful move. This is probably the move of the game in terms of direction of play. So Go is pretty much like music or art, and sometimes to come up with the best piece, you really have to have inspiration. And I think today, Jiayang is in such a good state that he's just having the inspiration to create such a gorgeous move. It is very creative, and the idea behind it's very deep. The idea is that, well, we'll actually see the idea in the game. Okay, so first of all, black is not connected, and therefore white absolutely have to cut this, right? If white allows, let's say for example, white is not paying attention, then black plays another move, we can see black is all connected, and you can forget about attacking black, and you have to come back and fix here, and that's just not acceptable because white's moyo is just gone because of the stones in here. So of course, white's move is to cut black off, right? It looks like black is in trouble, but then the next move, and this is all planned by Jiayang, he knows that white will absolutely go for this move, and then he goes for a slippery move. And this is so hard to deal with, right? We're looking to connect. And black is basically saying, if you want to cut my two stones on top, you can go ahead and do it. For example, if white cuts like this, then black will simply push on top, right? Then you have to add another move to completely capture the two stones. Not to say that later on I can come in from this direction, but right now, I can use what I gained on top to start a counterattack on white. And we can see that this is a pleasant position for black, actually. Black is able to transfer, right, from being attacked to an attacker. And then white now is the one worrying about the life and death over here. And this stone is also isolated. So black would gain the momentum in this game if it plays out like this. So in the actual game, this is very difficult for white to deal with. And so he decided to push on top. Black pushes, and white comes back to connect the four stones, or else, because this connection is already cut off, therefore white has to spend a move to save the four stones, and black follows up with a plan by attacking white. Here white plays an exchange in the corner, and black plays a Tsuji, that's the first line extension. So this is a very interesting, if you put it as a Sumego, it would be quite a hard Sumego. It looks like there's not much going on, right? Like there's only a few places where you can place stones, but in such a tiny corner, I can safely say that most of Fox 7 Dan would not know exactly what's going on in this corner. So first of all, black cannot play the Hane. If black plays the Hane, this would be a mistake because white can throw in. If black captures, then white can Atari from behind and extend. And now we can see that this is a very bad position for black, because even if black can manage to capture white, this means that black lost these four guys in Sente, right? White doesn't have to play right now, and black is already dead. So black lost a bunch of points in Sente, and that's just not acceptable. So after the throw in, this is just very difficult for black, right? If you have to connect, then I can take, and this corner is so annoying for black to deal with. And if black doesn't deal with it properly, both sides could die, and that's a very serious problem. So the most intuitive move that a lot of high dan player would probably just play without thinking would be quite a fatal mistake, right? So what about some of the other variations? If black connects, then white is going to resist with the Hane here. That's a very beautiful Tsuji. If black attaris from the first line, then white will Hane from behind. If black attaches, that's just a fake Tsuji because white can resist at 1-1 and forming a ko. If black captures, white captures back, black takes, and then white keeps crawling into the corner. Black attaris and white connects, and this becomes an immediate ko, right? The next move, white's gonna squeeze here and just kill the group. And this is a very serious problem. This is probably game over for black because how serious the problem is. So black cannot really play any of those fake Tsujis, therefore black has to take white attaris, and here black has to throw in and white takes back. And we see that this is a one-step ko, except this is a very heavy ko for black, right? If white wins, then black still has to manage to live here with one extra move. So that would not be great for black. So when white tries to resist over here, the more resilient move is for black to atari. Now here, if white just connects, then black has a Tsuji, that is to play the 1-2, and this is black's kills white. So that's a clean kill. White can't accept that, except white can now resist again at 1-1 to form a ko. Here white can probably deal with the 4 stones here and later on come back to play the 1-1 at any time. And that's the very annoying part about this corner, is that black doesn't really want to spend an extra move to clean it up, but white always has the chance to come back and start this fight. So that's also very concerning for black. And that shows you why this move is the correct move. By extending on the first line, this looks very counterintuitive, but it's actually the best move tactically. Now the only thing white can do is to block over here. Now once again, black cannot try to kill white because there's an atari and extend, right? We said that these 4 guys will be captured, and therefore black needs to connect here, right? Saving some endgame and living over here locally. And white needs to play the 1-2 to Tsuji, and black blocks, white plays the Hane, and this is a one-step ko, meaning that black can now Tanuki, white needs to spend another move, and then when black takes becomes an immediate ko. So that's the best outcome if both players want to play locally. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you are, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And if you want to dive deeper and support what I'm doing, check out my Patreon. I regularly post exclusive high-quality content on Joseki's, pro game breakdowns, and even full courses. Stuff you won't find anywhere else. The link is in the description. Thanks so much. Let's continue. Alright, so at this point, both players read out what's happening in the corner. Therefore, they decided to play elsewhere. By the way, the reason this is such a good move is because I just forgot to say, if white plays out like this, black connects, and then white plays here. This is also a one-step ko, meaning that's pretty serious, right? Like black can lose this group, but at least black first ensured that this group is alive, right? If you play here, then I can block like this, and of course black has 2 eyes. So that's the good side about playing here, is making sure that my group here is alive. So it's like a risk mitigation, right? The only thing I'm gonna lose is this group if I lose the ko. All right, so at this point, as I said, both players read it out and they decide to leave it for later. White obviously needs to make sure that this group lives, therefore attach and clamp on top. Okay, so black ataris the 3rd line stone, white extends out, and black plays a Panuki to capture the stone and making sure black is very thick. White bumps into black, and black extends into the center. And you can see both players playing very slippery, right? Like I'm playing here, black is like, oh, I don't answer, I just extend out. Very well played by both sides. White now blocks, and black needs to run out. Even if black is a Panuki, doesn't mean black is alive. Black still has to deal with it by coming out. White turns, black blocks, and white plays a Kosumi here, splitting black Of course, white had to play this, right? Otherwise, when black plays like this, then black is connected. So white cannot allow that. Now black turns towards the center. And here white squeeze, that's a sente, and attach on the fourth line. This is a mistake from white. It's probably, well, it's quite obvious why it's a mistake after you see a couple more moves. But basically at this point, white should just treat the center because the center is very important still, right? Because white can later on cut off the 2 stones. So if black gets to capture the 3 stones, that would mean that these 2 stones have nothing to worry about. So it's a lot of profits in the center to take. However, when white attaches on top, of course this move is huge, right? Because it saves the stone over here. But when black takes the momentum by pressing white on top, this is a very big problem for white because white doesn't want to give up the 3 stones. And therefore, he had to attach. Black bumps into white, white connects, black honeys, and white reads everything out and then decide to play the empty triangle to get out, right? Because tactically, there's no other way. So now we can see that black is able to take the momentum in the center and force white to play inefficient moves like this, right? So this turns out to be bigger than what white gained over here. Black connects, white turns, and black now comes back to fix the weakness over here. White has to play another move or else the honey is very serious. So white had to play an extra move and black honeys, white honeys, and black plays a move in the center. So this move over here is a little passive, I think. Although AI doesn't really think it is horrible. It's probably like, AI is being like, okay, it's a decent move. But for human players, I think this move is quite slow, right? Doesn't matter which level you're at, like single digit Q, double digit Q, or down level player. You can see that we have a lot of stones here, right? And we're playing a move that's super close to our stone just to protect this weakness over here. A much more active move, I wouldn't say not necessarily better, but for human players, a much more active move is to play something like living here, right? This is a lot of territory. If white gets here, then our Panuki is kind of dead. So this is a ton of territory. Right? If white wants to attack, then we'll deal with white in some sort of way, right? It's not a big deal. Black is going to live, so why not take the territory first? This would be a more understandable and faster and more active way of playing. Or if black is worried about the center, maybe the correct move is to play the Keima here, right? Pressing white while also indirectly fixing the center. So anyway, black decided to jump, 2-space jump in the center. And it isn't bad according to AI, but I feel like for human players, it does feel very slow. Next up, we have white playing the tiger's mouth. This is trying to kill the corner. Black had to answer. And now white bumps into black. Black cannot allow that stone to be captured. And white plays the Keima. We can see that with this move, white is able to bring the territory balance back, right, by killing this group. Black attaches, white blocks. That's just an exchange to leave some Aji behind. And black comes back to take a very big move that encloses the corner. White attaches into black's corner, a very common technique. And after the exchange, white attaches on top, trying to create some combination effect, right? If black plays like this, then white can cut, and then white can make use of this invisible Atari that he doesn't play right away to cause problems. And therefore, black had to extend. White plays the tiger's mouth, enclosing territory. Black turns, white extends, and black keeps pushing. And here, white jumps toward the center. Black exchanges a move in the center and comes back to take care of this group because he's still worried about the weaknesses that black has. White honeys, black honeys, and white plays the double tiger's mouth, forcing black to extend. And here, white comes into black's shape, poking at this weakness once again. Black extends, white connects, and black now turns on top. And white obviously has to drag the stone back or else black can cut it off. Black keep spending move, right? Black needs to keep spending move to take care of this dragon over here, which is very painful. And white pushes, black honeys, white turns, and black honeys once again. You can see that black's shape is very broken. Whenever you have a shape like this, it's kind of broken. But black, I guess black at this point just had to live the dragon over here pretty much because white is quite thick over here. So the result of this is that, so at the point where white had to make an empty triangle, white is kind of falling behind in this game. But because of the slow moves that black played in the center, and the fact that black has spent so many moves just to secure the center, is making this game back to equal. So at this point, very close game still. And white decides to play a Hane to strengthen the territory over here. The Hane is also this is also an endgame move. Well, also a sente, because otherwise black's not going to live. Black plays the bump. And this move is clearly looking at the Aji that black has here, because in terms of endgame, the best move is for black to make an eye like this. This is a lot of points. But the reason is when black plays here, he's looking at the Aji, trying to revive the corner over here. So what's happening in here, right? For example, of course, white plays here, then black has to respond. But let's just look at the life and death over here. If black cuts, then I think white is going to Atari here. And black cannot live very easily. If you Atari, then white is not going to let you get this incente. White is actually going to squeeze from behind. When black captures, white will simply extend, and we can see that there's no way for black to make two eyes. Right? For example, if white's not careful, right, the Atari is the correct move. If you're not careful, black now has a Tsuji, and this is very annoying. Right? If you play here, black can resist with a Ko, and that's not great for white. Therefore, white had to Atari first, right, to prevent that from happening. So black can't live in this direction. So if black really wants to live or get something happening in here, black is probably going to rely on this this triangle, right? This is looking at some push and cut. So if white responds, then black can play here first, right? Trying to Atari. So this time it's different. If white doesn't answer, then, if white trying to play something like this, then black can Atari, right? We can see that there's a code going on here regardless, right? If you play this one, I think black can simply capture, and this is a clean alive. So if white plays the Atari, then of course black's going to capture. If you extend, then black makes an eye here, and this is also co-alive because black can resist like this. So this tells you that when black squeeze here, white probably has to connect, and black can resist by playing the tiger's mouth, and we can see that this is also a co-alive. So black has to use some really extreme moves to just live in here, and it's still a very difficult ko, and white does have a lot of ko threats on the outside. That's why black doesn't want to do this immediately, and therefore in the actual game, black had to live here anyway, and when white captures here, white still doesn't care about the fact that black has something in here, because he knows that he has a lot of ko threats and black doesn't want to start it right away. So black Ataris, white extends, and here black spends another move to fix the weaknesses in the center. White now jumps. The reason white jumps here is to protect this Atari. To protect this cutting point, I mean. Okay, so after the jump, black takes the biggest endgame on the board, that is to get the 2 stones back. This is absolutely huge. Just visually, we can see how big this is. But white didn't really have a choice, right? Because if black gets the cut here, these 3 stones are in trouble. So this is bigger. And when black takes this 2 stones back, white decides to attack the center. Black connects. And now white jumps into black's territory, a very big endgame. Here black pushes, white takes, and black turns. These are all sente. And here black very pleasantly connect the stone back, killing the corner. So not only this is endgame points, but this also gets rid of the ko I was talking about. And white has to play a move to connect here. That's very painful, right? So this exchanging with this is a huge gain for black. And now black comes back and take the biggest endgame on the board. That is to take this stone. This is not only points, but also weakens white's formation. White now peeps black. Black decides to play a peep back. So he's not really too worried about the cutting point because he plays a move over here. The reason being that if white cuts, black can probably just live over here as well. Therefore, after an exchange in the corner, white decides to say, hey, I'm going to push into your ice space. Please go back and fix this problem. But against this move, black actually comes up with a very brilliant sequence that is to attach into white. This is very well played by black from here, right? Very good reading. So against this move, white has to block, and here black comes up with another Tsuji, wedging in the center. White has to deal with that, and black connects. That's of course a sente, otherwise there's a cutting point. White has to connect, and here black plays the throw in. Very strong move. If black plays the capture, that would be a blunder because black can now throw in once again. And we can see that after white takes, black will simply connect, and there's no way for these guys to get home, right? There's too many connect and die. So that just means white is kind of in trouble, and the only move for white to play is to Atari on top. This is the trickiest move, and this is what white played in the actual game. And here, black blocks, and white, of course, has to take the 2 stones, letting black capture the entire group over here. So as we can see, white's move over here is now meaningless because black captured the stones in the center, and this would give black a slight advantage in this game. And eventually, black was able to win this game by half point. So what went wrong for black? What went wrong for white is that I think at this point, instead of trying to attack black, white should really have realized the weaknesses and just play an extra move to get rid of weaknesses. This move gets rid of everything, and also making this kind of clamp and extend like not gonna happen. So yeah, that's probably what white should have played, and this could have been a closer game. But in the actual game, because white wanted to attack black, black used a very fierce counter attack to gain a very small advantage actually, because the reason it's very small advantage is because black also lost a bunch of points in the process, right? So even this connection gained white some potential over here, and of course black lost 2 stones over here. And all of that kind of mitigates what black gained in the center. But at the end of the day, this was still a good exchange for black. So so from this point on, it's a bunch of endgames. I'll just play a few more moves. Eventually what happened is black read out that he's leading a little bit, and therefore he gave up on the idea of fighting this ko. And we can see at this point, the ko no longer exists and black is clean dead. And after white connects, this is just more or less a winning game for black. Of course, both players played pretty accurate endgames, and there was no chance for white to come back, even if it was just a very tiny lead by black. So overall, I think this was such a high quality game. A lot of tactics, right? Especially like this extension in the corner, and a lot of life and death calculations by both players over here. Of course, I just briefly mentioned that, but in the actual game, players have to spend a lot of time calculating here. And of course, the brilliant Tsujis, right? The attach and the wedge by black in the center, lots of reading skills. And I really enjoyed this game, and I hope you guys did as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you guys in the next one.